Our next guest appears regularly on national TV and radio. Kathy Barnette is a veteran, a former adjunct professor of corporate finance, a sought-after conference speaker, and a conservative political commentator. She also authored the book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. Next up on Kathy's list is taking on Washington, D.C., and is running for the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. She's a wife, mom, veteran, author, political commentator, and she joins us now. Kathy, welcome to Hope Today.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
What have you not done?
I know, right?
I
That's probably a shorter list.
I mean, wow. I mean, those are some. Where did this begin? Tell us your story. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, you know, I think the only thing that's not on there is that I homeschool my kids for about 6 years. But where did it all begin? It all began in a little one-stop sign, little town, if you can even call it that. I grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama. I grew up below the bottom rung of the economic ladder. I often tell people I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back, and a well on the side. You know, I often tell people we were so poor, we couldn't afford the other O. We were just po. But God was so faithful, because when you are a child and you're loved and you feel protected, which I certainly did, you don't know how dire your situation is. And I certainly didn't fully begin to understand it until I grew up. That when my grandmother would ask me to help her in the garden, it wasn't just to spend quality time with me. That was a part of our survival. If we wanted beans or greens or potatoes, we had to go outside and grow it ourselves. But, you know, in today's culture, I'm constantly, you know, comparing and contrasting how my own children are growing up compared to how I grew up. And one of the stark differences between now and then, although my family had a lot of reasons to decry victimhood if they wanted to, I don't recall anyone ever calling me a victim. I don't remember anyone ever saying, Kathy, you're black, you're poor, you're a woman, all the odds are against you, don't even try. And because I earnestly believe, because no one ever gave me a psychology of lack, extra pair of chains, right? I became the first in my family to go and finish college. I spent 10 years in the U.S. military, where I was accepted into officer candidacy school. I spent time in the financial industry with A.G. Edwards and Sons and Bank of America Capital Asset Management, Corporate America, an adjunct professor of corporate finance. So many different things, political commentator, national speaker, homeschooling my kids, authored my first book that went #1 on Amazon, so praise God for that. Nice. And now I'm running for U.S. Senate. And I often tell people that I tell that story to remind us in America that this is the greatest country that has ever existed. My story only takes place here in America. You hear that arc in my story here in America. We're not perfect, but there's no one running a close second to this country. I've traveled the world with the military primarily, and I am here to say this is the greatest country, but our country is in trouble, and it's the reason why I believe God is calling more and more people like myself. This was not on my bucket list of things to do, but here I am, and God has been extremely faithful in this new journey that my family and I are on.
How do you feel like your family history and your past fuel your passion to run for the U.S. Senate today?
I clawed my way from underneath a rock, right? And in large part, it is because of America. The fact that regardless of where you are, you know, give us your weak, you're hungry, you're poor, right? America says to the world. And it has allowed me to be able to create a new story for myself, right? And for my children. My babies have no idea what it feels like to stand in front of an empty refrigerator and wonder where their next meal is going to come from. They have no idea what it feels like to sit in a dark room because my single parent mother cannot pay for both the rent and the light bill. That took place here. And I am eternally grateful to this country for allowing me, you know, to be able to carve out a life for myself. Now, I often say to people, you know, I am not a victim. I'm a victor, and I've taught my babies that, right? But it doesn't mean people have not tried to victimize me, right? I'm sure all of us have had those people who have tried to take advantage of us or who have tried to put up obstacles in front of us. But in America today, if you don't like me because of the color of my skin, that's more your problem than it is my problem, right? Our country has done a tremendous amount of work to right those wrongs. And that house that I described, my great-great-great-grandmother, Rhoda, grew up in that home. She was a slave. I have the blood of slaves coursing through my veins, and I understand my story. I've done the work to know the good, the bad, the downright despicable things that took place in this country, and I still come out today saying this is the greatest country that has ever existed. And she was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles. We have not always been the best stewards of what God has given us, but this is the only country that is constantly striving to improve. And so I recognize that, and my heart is just, just very sad about the state of our country today. We need better people to get engaged.